So good to have you again on the program Healthy Living. And today we'll be talking about a very, very important topic. This one is titled Healing Hypertension. And my guest on this topic is Reverend Tony Akinyemi. Reverend, you're welcome to the program once again.
It's my pleasure to be here again. Thank you for always inviting me.
And you are looking wonderful.
And so are you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Okay, now we are looking at healing hypertension. And these days, hypertension is so popular. Students, everybody. What are the causes of hypertension?
Well, hypertension is called the silent killer. Because even those who are not aware that they have it are probably more than those who are aware that they have it. And now it cuts across all generations, like you rightly identified. The causes, well, in my personal studies, I found that there are at least 8 predisposing factors that can lead to elevated blood pressure, which is what hypertension is. At least 8 predisposing factors. Any single one of the 8 can make a person's BP to go up, or a combination of them. So it depends on each particular individual, and that's why the same size does not fit all when it comes to the remedies to be used to address hypertension. Medically speaking, I see doctors prescribing almost the same thing for everybody.
Everybody, yes.
You know, they give you amlodipine, give you a diuretic, give you a sedative, something to make you sleep and things like that. That's why you see some will get better, some will not respond, because the factors responsible for each person's hypertension may be different from person to person to person. There are those that may be helped with chemical remedies, and there are those that cannot be helped with chemical remedies. Okay. What I mean by chemical remedies are pharmaceutical drugs. Okay. There are those that all they need to do is to get some psycho-emotional counseling to identify things that are bothering them, that are troubling them, and counsel them and bring them to that place of calmness, okay. That place where they are reassured that everything will be all right, and then they can regain their sleep again, and their calmness and composure again. Their minds can settle again, and BP will start dropping. Some, it's a matter of their lifestyle and their current body composition. If somebody is obese, for example, or overweight, and because of that the BP goes up, you give him drugs, you are wasting his time. Tell him to lose weight. You know? Adjust your diet, your lifestyle, and burn the fat away and bring your body composition back to the ideal situation, and your BP will disappear. So we can look at all the 8 factors one by one, and that will help us to also profile 8 different strategies to deal with hypertension if it's in place.
Okay, so what are these 8 factors?
Yeah, the first one is the one I just alluded to: psychological, emotional. Anxiety, worry, fear, stress, sleeplessness, insomnia, that is, and matters like that. When people have their BP shooting up as a result of these factors that I have mentioned, typically you will find that it is the systolic pressure that normally goes very high. The diastolic pressure doesn't go rather too high. What do I mean by systolic and diastolic? If a person's BP is measured, it's normally 2 figures. There's an upper figure and a lower figure. You have like 110/70. That 110 is the systolic pressure, and the 70, the one below, is the diastolic pressure. Now, the systolic pressure is the maximum pressure that when the heart pumps blood out into the blood vessel, the blood will make it will hit against the wall of the blood vessel and exert some kind of pressure. The maximum amount of pressure that can be exerted, that is the systolic. And then when the heart relaxes and rests and the pressure goes to the lowest level, that is the diastolic. So you look at the highest and the lowest. Now, when a person is challenged psychologically, emotionally, somebody is troubled, maybe there is a family problem going on, a marital problem going on, financial problem going on, career problem going on, ministry problem going on, or even national problem going on. Now, when COVID-19 broke out globally, everybody was afraid.
Yes.
This is novel, this is new, we have never seen this before. And even doctors were telling us they don't know how to treat it. So everybody's afraid. What if I catch this COVID? There is no solution, there is no remedy. You know, at that time, nothing was known. Now, by the grace of God, we know how to handle it. But then, when it first broke out, nobody knew how to handle this thing. Scientists were still studying the virus and the effect and the impact and how to mitigate it, how to remedy it. So, in that state of uncertainty, you find so many people, their BP shot up because of anxiety, because they were worried, because they were afraid. There are things that go on in our minds that impact our body. They are called psychosomatic disorders. Psycho, your mind. Soma, your body. So psychosomatic. In other words, the effect of your mind on your body. It's called mind-body connection. So you have to look at everything in that range. That's the first factor. So if somebody is stressed up or somebody is worried that he doesn't sleep well, you have to address what is making him not to sleep well and help him to be able to sleep well. And then his BP can begin to come down. If somebody's business is not doing well, career is challenged, financial problem, or marriage problems, then help to look at it and get a good counselor who can handle the matter with them, walk them through the process of resolving the crisis. And that person's BP can go down. I tell people that if in your marriage you have a lot of tension, somebody is going to develop hypertension. So it's like that. So that's the first factor. Quite often, that is overlooked. Then you see these grandmas and grandpas, particularly grandmas, they can worry a lot. Oh, my child in London. Oh, the one in Germany. She's been married for 3 years. She has not told me that she's pregnant. Oh, this and that and that. Oh, I want to carry my grandchildren. Oh, they worry and worry. So you see their BP going up all the time. Because they are thinking and thinking and thinking. So the first major factor out of the 8 is psycho-emotional. It has to do with mental health. And anybody who has hypertension, the first thing is not to start loading the person with drugs. Of course, if the BP is too high, you can crash it so that it doesn't lead to stroke or heart attack. But after you have crashed it, you know how to sit down with the person and investigate all these emotional factors and see, are you sleeping well? How is your job schedule? When do you wake up? When do you go to bed? How many hours do you sleep? Do you really sleep properly when you sleep? Or do you count ceilings when you sleep? And then you look at their office. How is your office work? Is your boss stressing you? Or are your subordinates running you mentally? They are not meeting their schedules. They are not doing what they are supposed to do. They are running you haywire. You look at that, is your marriage working? How are your relationships with your parents, with your spouse, with your friends, with your colleagues? You sort out all of those areas as part of the combo. And then you now go on to number 2. Number 2 has to do now with the person's, what I call the integrity of the person's blood vessels. The blood vessels are the pipes around our body that blood courses through. Blood flows through the blood vessels. So if there's any portion along the blood pathway of the blood vessels that is clogged or blocked, there'll be a problem. There can be plaque deposits in the inner layer of the blood vessel. It's like your kitchen sink. You have a pipe that conducts water out. Sometimes it gets blocked and the water doesn't flow anymore. It starts backing up. Yeah, the same thing can happen to the blood vessels inside our body. If you eat wrongly, you are eating the wrong type of food, you will have arteriosclerosis. That is plaque deposits inside your arteries. And it will thicken the arteries, the blood vessels, narrow it. Once it becomes narrow, the heart has to push very hard for blood to go through that narrow pathway, and then BP goes up. Then if it becomes thickened, it loses elasticity. Because if your BP goes high, your brain senses it and sends a signal to the blood vessel to dilate, to relax, to widen up, so that pressure can go down. But if the blood vessel has already become hardened, then even when the signal comes to dilate, it cannot dilate anymore because it has lost its integrity. It has lost its ability to dilate and constrict. It has lost elasticity. So you have to fix that. There are ways to clear out all those deposits from the blood vessel, to open it up so that it becomes wide, and then you restore the integrity. It can dilate, it can constrict, it can dilate, it can constrict. So blood pressure can be regulated to stay within the normal limit. So that's the second one, the integrity of your blood vessels. The third one is the integrity of the blood itself. The blood that is going through those blood vessels. What is the viscosity of the blood? Is it too thick or too thin? So if you have a lot of cholesterol inside your blood, it makes the blood very viscous, very thick. Then if you are dehydrated, you are not drinking enough water, then your blood becomes too thick. And the thicker, the harder the heart has to pump to make it keep moving. And so you have to change the viscosity of your blood to the normal consistency. Not too thin, so you don't bleed, and not too thick, so it's not difficult to flow. So circulation is not impaired. So that is the number 3, the integrity of your blood itself. You have to deal with all of that. Then number 4, you have to look at your electrolyte balance. People talk about potassium and sodium a lot. These are minerals that we need in our human body for various biochemical activities. But because of the way we eat and the way we cook our food these days, that's why I keep emphasizing a lot of raw food in all my meal plans. Because when you eat raw food, you are eating food exactly the way God compounded it, the way God composed it, without altering anything. But the moment you start cooking and processing, you start alterations. Now, for example, you want to boil your yam. You peel the yam, slice it, you rinse it, you put it in your pot, you add water. What do you add again? Salt. The moment you add salt, you know what you are doing? The salt is just sodium chloride. What you are doing is that you are bringing additional sodium into the mix. Now, that yam has a little sodium, a little potassium, a little calcium, a little iron, a little phosphorus, an array of minerals and trace minerals that God has put in a delicate balance. Now, you are bringing additional minerals, and the only one you are bringing is sodium, through sodium chloride. You are not bringing more potassium. You are not bringing more calcium. You are not bringing more magnesium. So, you have suddenly increased the sodium content, while the other ones remain at that low level. So, what have you done? You have distorted the mineral profile. And now, so when you eat cooked food 3 times a day, what have you done? You have eaten high sodium food 3 times a day. And you do that for 20 years of your life. Then your sodium level begins to get too high. And once sodium goes too high in your body has a way of regulating that. Your body will try to excrete the excess. But then, it will still be higher than the other minerals in terms of their percentages and ratio. So what happens is that your body begins to retain water, more water, to dilute this excess sodium that you have in your body. Because if your body doesn't dilute it, it will kill you. But your body doesn't want to die. So it will retain the water to dilute it. And once you have excess water retention, that's one of the causes of hypertension. Okay. That's why, before we sign off for this one, that's why one of the ways they treat hypertension is to administer drugs that are called diuretics. Something like moduretic, for example. Okay. Diuretics are drugs. Okay.
All right, you're still on the program Healthy Living. After the break, we continue.
Have you been through stuffs and you survived? Guess what? It's time to set your world on fire. You never know who needs your light, your warmth, and courage. You are a survivor, and that's amazing. I Am a Survivor is of Anthony Akinyemi's newest book. Hurry now, grab a copy from the TSS bookstore.
Welcome back. You're still on the program Healthy Living, and we are talking on healing hypertension. Before the break, Reverend Tony was giving us the different factors that lead to hypertension. And he also said that the way we are cooking our yam is not the right it's not the right way by, adding salt to it. So, Reverend, how do we cook our yam? I love yam so much.
Yeah.
And that's how I always
Cook your yam. Incidentally, yam is also one of my own favorite meals. Let me finish the thoughts that I was giving the other time. I said when there's excess sodium, your body retains fluid and then BP goes up. And that is one of the reasons that doctors normally prescribe diuretics to treat hypertension as a starting point. A diuretic is a drug that helps to flush out that excess fluid that your body has retained. Makes you to form urine and urinate a lot. Okay. Once the excess fluid is flushed out, you see BP coming down. Okay. Now, how do you cook your yam? If you recall how our grandparents used to do it in the village in those days, they have this big clay pot, earthen pot. Sometimes they will put sticks and leaves at the bottom.
Yes.
And then they will arrange these tubers of yam. They don't peel.
They don't peel it.
And they arrange them on top. They put water. You see that the water doesn't even touch the yam. The water is in the base.
Yes.
And it is the steam that cooks the yam. Now, the skin that is left on the yam locks in all the minerals, all the nutrients. It doesn't allow it to leach into the water. So you have all the nutrients as God packaged it, locked inside. You don't lose anything. And then because the water is also at the base, the water doesn't also drain, the nutrients. So that's the best way to cook your yam. So you see, grandma knows better than us, despite our degrees. Now it is in the cities that we start doing this slicing and cooking. But then if you still want to slice and be city-like, you can use a steamer. A steamer is an electronic device or electronic gadget that you have in your kitchen. It has a base where you pour water inside, and then it has a layer you put on top, and then some of them have 3 deckers. You can they have perforations, holes. So the water is at the bottom. You arrange the yam at the top. They peel the yam at the top. It doesn't touch the water.
Okay.
So you just plug it to your socket, and the water boils, and the steam is what is cooking the yam. The yam never touches the water. So you don't see this milky water at the end of the cooking. If you cook it directly in the water, sometimes you see the water turns milky. That tells you that something has left the yam into the water.
Wow.
Okay, but when it doesn't touch the water, you simply steam the thing. I would even prefer you leave the skin on and steam it, and when you finish, then you peel. And then you eat it with your sauce. Now, it is your sauce that you can now flavor with a little bit of salt, and preferably unrefined salt. Maybe sea salt, Himalayan salt to give it flavor. When you use sea salt or Himalayan salt, you get approximately 72 to 74 minerals and trace minerals inside that salt. So it's not just sodium chloride. It has a little bit of almost all the minerals and trace minerals. So you don't distort the mineral profile and balance. And once you have a proper mineral balance, then your BP doesn't go up. Yeah, that's the fourth, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, the fourth factor. Number 5, we'll go on to what I call the musculoskeletal conditioning. In other words, your muscles and your bones. That addresses the issue of your weight.
Okay.
How heavy you are. If you are obese or overweight, you need to work on that. and shed some weight, shed some pounds.
Shake it off.
Shake it off. Yeah. Once you get it off your body, you relieve the burden on your heart. Because the heavier you are, the more work your heart has to do to pump blood around this heavy body. If your heart is designed to pump blood around 80 kg body, and now you are 120 kg, you are giving serious extra work to your heart. And that will affect your cardiovascular system. So come to your ideal weight. Now, there is what we call body mass index. That's what you use to determine your ideal weight. That is the ratio of your weight to the square of your height. Your weight in kilograms and your height in meters. For example, if you weigh 80 kg and your height is like 1.7 meters. So what you do is you divide 80 kg by 1.7 and divide it again by 1.7. Whatever you get, that's your BMI, your body mass index. And if your BMI is below 18.5, the result you get when you do that calculation is below 18.5, you're underweight. You need to gain weight. If it is between 18.5 and 24.9, then that is your ideal weight. If it is between 25 and 30, you are overweight. If it is between 30 and 40, you are obese. If it is above 40, you are morbidly obese. You know? And you need to bring your BMI into the normal range of 18.5 to 24.9. If you have 1 or 2 points above 24.9, it's still okay. Maybe you are 25, 26, 27, it's still okay. Particularly if the weight is muscle weight and bone weight and not fat weight or water weight, then that's still fine. Because some people have heavy bones. And because of weightlifting and other things, some people have heavy muscles. So their BMI might actually be higher than what is considered normal. There's nothing to worry about. As long as they are fit, they are exercising, and their weight is more of muscles and bones rather than fat and water. Okay, so when you condition your musculoskeletal system, you position yourself to normalize your BP. Okay? Then the next one will be the amount of toxicity that is inside your body. How many different kinds of toxins do you have in your system? If your body is highly toxic internally, your BP can go up, many other things can go wrong. That's why making sure that toxic substances don't enter your body in the first place. That's why you have to watch your diet. If you eat processed food, there are a lot of chemicals they are added as preservative, as artificial flavors, and so on. So that builds up inside the body, and once the internal environment of the body is toxic, the body is very intelligent. The body will start retaining water to dilute, and that will make BP to go up. Okay, so you want to make sure that you detoxify all the time. And then, of course, there is also the factor of genetic factor. In diabetes, when we discuss diabetes, I mentioned that some people are born into a family line where they are mostly diabetic. Same thing. Some people can be born into a family line where they have hypertension as an issue. Okay, so if you have this genetic factor as a hereditary issue that you inherited, that is something you don't have control over. But thank God, out of the 8, you have control over 7. And if you can control the 7, you render the 8th one redundant. You make it dormant. Okay, so genetics is very, very important. The next factor has to do with what we call general factors. Things like race. Are you Caucasian? Are you Asian? Are you African? Are you black or white or green or yellow? Your race. And then your gender. Are you male or female? These are things that also contribute to your cardiovascular health status. It has been found, through epidemiological studies that blacks generally develop hypertension more than whites. It may not necessarily be connected to race. It may be as a result of poverty, because we all know that the black population of the world also has the highest concentration of poor people. most black countries are third world countries, and most white countries are first world countries. Now, so they have a lot of medical care, a lot of affluence, they can afford this, they can afford that. They don't hustle like we hustle, you know. In this part of the world, you see a young man in his 30s, 40s. I mean, when I was working, I trained first as an engineer before I trained as a nutritionist. Now, I was chief engineer of my company. I was in my 30s. And then I would take my vacation, so-called. Instead of going to rest in my vacation, I'm doing PP. Because I want to make more money, because the demand on me is high. I have younger ones that I need to cater for. I have to cater for my own family. I have to build a house. I have to buy a car. I have to do this. I have to do that. So my vacation was not used to rest. I will go and do PP, if you know what PP is, you know, to make more money, you know, extra money. Sometimes my company will tell me that they will buy my leave and pay me for it so I don't have to go. And I will be happy to make more money. And I will get 3 times my salary for that month. Because I will get my regular monthly salary, I will get my leave allowance, and then they will pay me for that month again. So it's like 3 months salary in 1 month. I jump, say, wow, more money. But little did I realize that that was a recipe for disaster in the future for my health. And many people in third world countries, black people all over the world, do that. Go to Europe, go to North America. You see Africans doing 3 jobs, 4 jobs. They will run from here to the next one to the next. You don't see whites doing that. So when you see black people developing more BP, they say it is your race. I think it is more of the hustling than race. But again, it has been identified that it's more common. Of course, white people also have it, but it's more common among blacks. I'm just trying to trace what could be responsible. And then you also see our African culture and tradition is such that if you are one person in your family and God helps you, you are successful financially, you will have a trailer behind you that need your help. Well, my advice for anyone who is dealing with hypertension is don't panic, because that will worsen your situation. Now, if you're overweight, work on your weight, normalize your weight. And then if your work schedule is too loaded, you have to reschedule. You have to work out a more, relaxing schedule. Delegate more and do only what only you must do. Then sleep better. Start an exercise regime. Start moderately and start building up gradually. And then forgive those who have offended you. Don't keep anybody in your mind, so that can free your mind from malice, from resentment, from animosity, from bitterness, and that makes your BP to start coming down. If you need to consult with experts, don't hesitate. Somebody who can work with you to walk you through from where you are to where you should be. Hypertension is not a death sentence. You can overcome it if you do the right thing. God bless you.
All right, we've come to the end of the program, Healing Hypertension, and I know that you have learned something today. 1, try to sleep well, work on your diet, and also forgive yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I am Blessing Ofomio. We'll do this again next week for another interesting topic. But don't forget to call us on the following numbers: 08188111112 and 08151393134. I am Blessing for me.